Hello and welcome to The Print. My name is Soumya Pillai, and in today's interview, I'm joined by retired Air Commodore B.S. Siwach. He is a very experienced Indian Air Force pilot with hours and hours of experience flying. He's also the Director General of Aviation Safety India, and he has held several top positions in governing the civil aviation safety scenario in the country. Welcome to The Print, sir, and thank you for joining us for today's interview.
Thank you, Soumya. It's a pleasure to be on
Uh,
your
sir,
channel.
I'll jump right to the questions. Just a few hours ago, we got the confirmation that the black box of the Indian Airlines, Dreamliner flight, which crashed unfortunately at Ahmedabad yesterday, the black box has been recovered, and there was a lot of conversation happening around how we will get some direction to the investigation once the black box is recovered. So, if you could just tell our viewers a little bit about what a black box in an airplane is, and how will it be important in guiding the investigation?
So, Soumya, black box recovery is a very, very heartening news because black box has got the entire information about the aircraft, about the performance of engines and other equipment on board, mainly electronic equipment. So, black box records a large number of parameters for each phase of flight, whether it is during takeoff, during climb, during cruise, during descent and landing. So the large number, more than 100, maybe even in Boeing 787, it may be even more than 200. So there's so many parameters are recorded in that. So the recovery of this black box, what you call, is it a digital flight data recorder, also cockpit voice recorder. So any voice also between the crew members, between the pilots and the air traffic control, they are all recorded. So it has gives you a lot of data, material, evidence when you start the investigation. It is very helpful in carrying out the investigation. It helps you in carrying out the analysis. Why did it happen? What went wrong? What were the main factor? What were the contributing factors? So this once the black box is recovered, thereafter it will be its data will be downloaded. After downloading, the data will be analyzed by the investigators, and that is the beginning of the investigation. So after they have recovered this, analyzed the data, then they are going to be physically examining the wreckage of the aircraft. There may be visual, there may be forensic investigation. So all this will be, and they'll put all the pieces together. They'll also go through the policies, procedure, training, competent levels of the pilots. So there's a whole lot of inputs are required for them to come to a definite conclusion. What was the root cause? What were the contributing factors? So there's a very helpful and there's a very good news that the flight data recorded has been found and recovered. And generally, in 99% of cases, the flight data record is always recoverable because it is made in such a way that it can stand extreme temperature, extreme impact also. So it can be very useful in carrying out the investigation.
Sir,
So
apart from the itself, what would the investigation look like? Like, if you could tell us a little bit about what would the investigation process be like? What would the investigators be looking for? And I know it's a stretch to ask this question right now, but how long till we get some kind of preliminary analysis as to what could have gone wrong?
you see, once they download the data, they'll come to know a lot of things. But they are not only going to go blindly by the data alone, they are going to carry out various other checks, procedures, standard operating procedures, the company policy, company standards of training, fatigue level of the pilots, and the state of mind of the pilots, and various other aspects are checked. So it is a got it involves large number of inputs which are required for the investigation team to make a final conclusion as to what went wrong. So it's a time consuming. It may take a couple of months to maybe an year plus. So the the investigation is will be carried out by accident aircraft accident investigation bureau AIB India and the representatives of the manufacturer, of the designers, of the Air India. I mean, Air India, yes, it is Indian only, and even maybe Federal Aviation Administration, National Transport and Safety Board of America. They will be invited. So, what is mandatory requirement to invite the representative is the state of design, state of manufacture, state of occurrence, state to which the operator belong, and the country to which the aircraft belongs. So all these are mandatory. But in addition, you can always invite experts like International Civil Aviation Organization, Federal Aviation Administration. Boeing, of course, is a manufacturer, so they'll be obviously there. And there are other safety experts and international investigative agencies also may be involved into this. Because there's a very horrific accident which has caused so much of death and destruction. Unimaginable, it has sent shockwaves throughout the world. So they are going to carry out a thorough investigation, and it's a total, involvement of the regulator, the investigator, DGCA, Ministry of Civil Aviation, and all other allied agencies, including the airport staff at the Ahmedabad airport. Then they also go by the video also, which you must have seen of the aircraft before the crash. So that also may provide them vital clues like what was the position of the undercarriage, what was the position of the flaps, what was the attitude of the aircraft. So all these factors will be studied in detail. There will be discussion, there will be consultations, and after all this, they will come to a ultimate, you know, position they take, what actually went wrong from
So
it.
you have been in the civil aviation safety sector for several years now, but you're also a pilot yourself. Could you tell us a little bit about what is the safety protocol that is followed when a flight is before the flight takes off, and if you could also touch upon how critical are those first few minutes after takeoff, and how, like, what could have gone wrong in those first few, like, we don't even, like, it did not even last for an entire minute, so the flight was in air only for a few seconds. So if you could just tell us what are the safety checks that usually go on board before the flight takes off, and how crucial are the first few seconds before, when you take off.
Okay. So before an aircraft takes off, first thing is that the aircraft is fully serviceable. They call it airworthy. That means it is fit to go into the air. So it is airworthiness. So thorough inspection of the aircraft is carried out by the expert engineer, technician, supervisors. After the aircraft has been checked and found fully serviceable, airworthy, then only it is handed over for the conduct of the flight. Now, there is a pilots, there is a dispatch staff of the operations of an airline. They will find out the pilots will be suitable for this kind of mission, like whether it is flying within India, whether there's a foreign destination, then what kind of weather condition are there, what type of runway is there, what the length of runway available. So all these parameters also will be taken into consideration, and based on the inputs, experience of the pilots will be taken into consideration, and then only the aircraft will be cleared for takeoff. So before takeoff, the pilots would have checked the aircraft. They would have carried out their internal check. They would have carried out startup. They would have interacted with the air traffic control, taken permission, and finally they will maybe they'll be asked to hold short of runway, and or otherwise they would have done their checks. They would have put the aircraft into correct configuration, and that configuration is that in their computer, there's an onboard computer which controls everything. So onboard computer, they would have checked how much is the load of the aircraft, what are the CO, center of gravity limits, what is the maximum power available, then what is the length of runways available, how much runway will be required for this type of takeoff, what is the surface temperature, what are the wind conditions, what are the cloud-based weather conditions. All this will be taken into consideration before the pilots decide to initiate a takeoff. Okay, so all these things will be computer will assist them, their standard operating procedure will assist them. Thorough checks, procedures, sequence of events, steps are followed. Now, in this particular case, the aircraft was 787 Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Now, this aircraft has been in service for last almost 14 years. Large number, almost 1,200 aircraft are flying around the world with large number of airlines. This aircraft has a proven safety record. It has conducted 50 lakh flights, 50 lakh. It has flown almost 30 lakhs hours. So that's the kind of safety statistics that 50 lakhs flights, that is 5 million flights, and 30 million flying hours. So not a single crash of the nature has occurred on this aircraft in the last so many years. So you can see, of course, there were some, comments, reservations, criticism in the initial stages. You see, in the when the aircraft is, launched, in the initial years it had teething problems. So there are teething problems, but all those were resolved. And the aircraft is known for its safety record. So aircraft was fully serviceable. The pilots were fully qualified, very experienced pilots. He was also a training captain also. The captain of this aircraft had 8,200 hours, and he was a training captain. That means he has been training other pilots. So his knowledge, his skill levels were of a very high order. Co-pilot also was reasonably well experienced. So now the thing which you have to consider is that it was around noon time. Takeoff was around noon time. Aircraft has 242 souls on board. It was 10 hours of flight. Fuel in the aircraft was more than almost 1 lakh liters. Okay, because the consumption of fuel itself is about 8,000 liter per hour. So aircraft was almost nearing its maximum takeoff weight, which is about 228 tons. So it may be having maybe 220 tons or something like that. So it was at max weight. Now temperatures on that day were about 40 degrees at Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is known for very hot conditions. So when the temperature are high, the density altitude which govern the performance on aircraft. Now Ahmedabad airport is at just about 180 feet or so elevation. But the density altitude of the aircraft, because of the 40-degree surface temperature, has gone to 3000 feet. So, although physically the aircraft was at 200 feet, but it was behaving, its performance will be as if it is operating at 3000 feet. So, see, difference of 3000 feet. Now, obviously, when this density altitude is high, that means the takeoff distance required for takeoff will be longer. The power requirement will be high. The reserve power is what is maximum available, what you require. How much is the reserve? So that is for the emergency purposes also. How much that is available? So all this will be taken into consideration. Now the aircraft was fully loaded, high temperature, density altitude 3000 feet, longer runway acceleration required. Flaps normally are electrically operated and they are selected as per the performance required, as per the condition prevailing at that particular time. Undercarriage, of course, is down. Aircraft weight and few of the limitations are checked before the aircraft taxis out, and they are under limits. So now the aircraft takes off. In this particular case, the runway to 3 of the Ahmedabad is around 11,000 odd feet. So the aircraft took almost the complete runway to take off. So obviously, because the aircraft was heavily loaded, the aircraft the temperature was high, then the altitude was high, so the acceleration also is slow, and true airspeed is higher because of the higher density altitude. Okay. Now this aircraft took off. Now what has been immediately after takeoff, when the pilot gains say about 100 odd feet height, and when they have got positive climb, engines are performing correctly, then this undercarriage, which is down, it is now retracted. Retract means it goes into the belly of the aircraft. That because the undercarriage produces drag, it provides resistance to this. So the aircraft, obviously, with undercarriage down, will require more power. So undercarriage is supposed to be retracted. Flaps are only retracted after the aircraft is safely airborne. It has achieved its speed and there's a flap limits also. After that, only gradually first maybe it reduced from 10 degree to 5 degree and then 5 degree to 1 degree. So that's the process followed. If you do not raise undercarriage, then that drag is being you know offered to the aircraft. The aircraft is experiencing more drag. For that, you require more power. Aircraft is climbing. Okay. Now, next is if you raise the flaps prematurely, you have not achieved the optimum speed and you raise your flaps, that also is likely to lose your lift. You know what flap does? Flap actually increases the surface area of the wing. Surface area of the wing is responsible for providing the lift. So for takeoff, you want more lift, okay, at slow speed. This is basically for slow speed. At high speed, they are retracted and aircraft is streamlined. Both undercarriage flaps are not down, they are streamlined because otherwise there will be air resistance. So surprising in this aircraft, the flaps seem to have been taken up, retracted. The undercarriage was still down, almost say 625 feet, they say. So 200 feet is the elevation of Ahmedabad. So aircraft was about at 425 feet. So at this 425 feet, undercarriage should not have been down. Flaps should not have been retracted before the undercarriage. So in this particular case, both the things were not desirable. We can't say whether it was because there are some hydraulic, undercarriage is operated hydraulically, flaps are operated electrically. There may be some malfunction due to which flaps may get retracted first automatically without pilot realizing it. So that can be dangerous, particularly at low heights. If you go at higher heights, then it will not pose that kind of problem. But lower height, you lose your height. And if undercarriage down, such a loaded, heavily loaded aircraft, it and flaps are not down, undercarriage down, that means your lift requirement is much more. Your drag is being posed by the undercarriage. So in this kind of case, the aircraft, even it may be in climbing attitude, but still may not climb and it may start going down. Okay, so that is the situation can happen. We don't know what could have gone wrong in this aircraft. These are things what we have been able to see on that aircraft. That flaps are fully retracted, that means fully gone into the wing, or partially retracted. Because you can't make out from the video whether it's fully retracted or partially retracted. But they are definitely retracted. Undercarriage is glaring. It appears to be down. So any the pilot has got high angle of climb for climb. If there is no lift, you require more thrust, and that aircraft was fully loaded, so that the aircraft, because of lack of lift, the aircraft are not able to sustain itself, and it started losing height. It could be attributed to any condition, maybe engine had, failed, or whatever else might have happened. So this will be only established by the investigation. But these are the basic, whatever knowledge we have got by looking at the video and knowing about the aircraft. So these are some of the important inputs which are available. We can't speculate what actually went wrong. This will be only found out from the analysis of the digital flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder. You see, pilot was absolutely calm, composed. He did not panic. Even at such low height, he had, maybe loss of power, or maybe he did not have adequate power. Okay.
So we
And he
also saw in
realized
the sorry.
so he gave a mayday call. Mayday call means the aircraft under serious threat to its safety, imminent serious threat. So that was what the pilot gave it. Pilot maintained wings level was there. So pilot appeared to be in control, but he had no thrust to take the aircraft, no lift to take the aircraft up. So unfortunately, the aircraft crashed. Go ahead.
So we also saw that, apart from the passengers who were on board, there was, loss of life because the area around the airport was pretty densely populated. In such a scenario, for a pilot who is in a mayday situation, was there any other way of handling the situation, or this was just, an eminent, like the pilot just looked for a relatively safer place to crash and just had to go down? If you could just maybe speak a little bit about whether there was a different way of handling this situation.
You see, that aircraft had building all around. So any pilot worth his salt, even at the risk of his own life, will try to save buildings or any damage or any people gathering to
Hmm.
avoid any casualty. He may, himself get killed, but he tries his best. This is the, you know, education, training given to the pilot, and pilot themselves also are aware of this kind of, requirements. In this particular, their buildings. And the pilot, because the aircraft did not have adequate lift, adequate thrust, so the pilot had no control over the aircraft. Okay, any pilot would have tried his best, he would have adopted various means, but he had full power. With that power also, the aircraft is losing height, is in a climb attitude, but then it was beyond the capability of any pilot. The pilot becomes totally helpless because the aircraft is not giving the desired lift and thrust. You can't say how the thrust was low. Maybe the thrust was low because some maybe engine had failed. It is quite likely that engine had failed. This aircraft has got very powerful engines. It can really, you know, um, climb without any problem. Its performance at high all of it also is quite good. But in this particular condition, the high all of weight, high temperature, high density altitude, the condition of the undercarriage, flaps, all these have contributed. And something else might have gone wrong. We can't really say anything on this.
Sir, I would want to end our interview on a larger question that the world is moving towards low cost airlines, and so is India. Over the last 2-3 decades, we've had a bunch of low cost airlines that have that are driving the civil aviation industry, and then eventually Air India has also moved in that segment. Uh, I wanted to understand for our viewers that is this particular switch towards low cost airlines with with airports and flights now getting much more traffic than it used to get say 1-2 decades ago, is safety in some way being compromised while we are looking at an increased level of traffic? What is your take on that?
See, low cost airlines are essential for the growth and development of aviation industry. They are also essential to provide air travel to common citizens of the country. You see, people from middle class and lower middle class, they can also afford to travel. So that's the objective. No frill airline, uh, you know. In fact, and if you go to US etc., you'll find that ticket also just go like you go on the bus and you go and purchase a ticket and board the aircraft. There no any check in and security. Security is done before um, by their own people. So yes, so it is very essential to have low cost airlines. India also has a low cost airline. And these are all known to be low cost airline, but they are only in the name now. Indigo is a low cost airline, but its charges sometimes may be even higher than the Air India. So low cost airlines are now. Yes, you're right. Commercial consideration always outweigh the safety considerations. This is very unfortunate that sometimes the safety is compromised at the cost of commercial aspects. So that is very true that do airlines do take shortcuts in a number of areas, but our regulator keeps a very regular oversight, regular audits, regular checks, and they get any inputs by any airline which is taking shortcuts. They come down heavily on them. They are very strict. Our DGCA, our regulator, is very, very strict. So chances of these people, but still people may take shortcuts, may compromise on safety, in spite of knowing very well that any accident can close down their shop permanently. They may go bankrupt. It is not good for reputation of that company. But still, human being greed, that is all everywhere, including you must have heard about Boeing. There's so many people are calling that Boeing has been taking shortcuts. Such a reputed, aviation manufacturer who is making, billions of dollars of profit. Till they've been accused of taking shortcut, compromising, doing something, wrong in their various aviation activities. So this is the problem the world over, and in spite of the best effort of the regulators, it does prevail. It does prevail.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. And your insights were very valuable, and it helped us understand what went wrong, unfortunately in Ahmedabad yesterday. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in for this interview.